let's start this morning session by introducing Professor Ulf-Daniel EHLERS, who is one of the most important representatives of the quality perspective and has been the director of the European Foundation for Quality in E-Learning, which in the last decade has been promoted tools and strategies to analyze and to introduce quality of the learning in within lifelong learning. So we are glad to have you, and we wish to start with your presentation. So please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with you here. It's a very important meeting which you have invited me to, and I'm happy to share some thoughts from the various perspectives and contexts which I am working in. As you said, I'm the president of the European Foundation for Quality in E-Learning, which is based in Brussels. It's a membership organization, and our aim is to gather organizations from Europe, from European countries, to debate about their needs in quality. And from these debates and discussions, we are then starting initiatives, quality initiatives, where we develop quality frameworks, tools, certifications, which then in turn we give back to our members. So that's the logic of the foundation, the European Foundation. And in my normal job, so to speak, in my normal life, I'm the vice president of the biggest university in southern Germany, which is called the Baden-Württemberg Cooperative State University. And my responsibility here is quality and academic affairs. I already said that EFQUIL is a membership organization. It consists of 130 member institutions from all over Europe and beyond, also from Asia and Latin America and Africa and North America. Usually these are universities, but we also have research institutions, companies, Toshiba, Adobe, and so on are also a member of the foundation. And we have an annual meeting, which is now taking place in Crete in May, 7th to 9th of May. And if you go to the website, you will find indications how to take part in that meeting. I would like to talk a little bit about openness, about e-learning, openness, open education, and quality this morning in the next 15-20 minutes. And I would like to start with a thought and with a concept which I call the digital evolution or revolution in higher education. And as you have heard, the Moocs are today debated everywhere, massive open online courses. You know that probably that Stanford has not started Moocs, but has made it very, very popular, the concept, by starting a course. Sebastian Truhn, the professor Sebastian Truhn, the German who's teaching and researching in Stanford University on computer science, has started a course several years ago and has opened this course to the world and had an enrollment number of 155,000 students. And so this phenomenon was born and is currently in every discussion on e-learning and open education which is going on. So in my view, we can differentiate three waves of development. Moocs are actually the third of these waves, the third digital revolution. The first one was around the millennium, where e-learning and electronic infrastructures entered the university massively all over Europe. And we could say that this e-learning hype was, of course, affecting learning environments very much. It changed learning environments. Then around 2007, 2008, we had a peak on open educational resources. The debate was growing on this issue, and it was a little bit also initiated and also catalyzed through the OECD report, which was entitled Giving Away Knowledge for Free, and which was proclaiming a revolution in the publishing business and in the education processes. And then around the 2008 Mooc started, and then we can say that it reached its preliminary peak in 2010. And while OER, actually, Open Educational Resources, are about giving away knowledge resources for free, Moocs are about open courses, giving away open courses for free, so opening access to education, actually. All these three challenges, which I just mapped out, are actually all leading to equality challenges. They all individually lead to a quality challenge in the end of the day. They start from the idea and from the fact that digital and technological innovation is happening, and they move on to an educational revolution where pedagogy is questioned and pedagogy is changed and educational scenarios are changed. And in the end, they are questioning the way always we are organizing our institutions. They're questioning what is quality actually, and they are asking and demanding for strategic approaches to innovation. We can see that very, very clearly with e-learning around the millennium. We can see that very, very clearly with OER in 2007, 2008. And we can also see that very clearly with Moocs, now leading to the question if the traditional university has come to an end, which my personal view is no, of course, but of course we have to recognize the challenges which are posed to traditional closed institutions when access to education is opened in a massive way like it is with Moocs. We are also talking about an unbundling from educational services. So while education can be quite easily nowadays made available for free over Mooc platforms, for example, you can easily enroll as long as you have internet access. We of course see that the certification part which is also an important part, assessment and certification of educational processes, is a little bit more difficult to make available for free. It's actually probably impossible to make it available for free and in the same way than it is possible to do that with Moocs. So there are challenges on innovation strategies, and our institutions are questioned, of course. In FQual and in my university experience, we have done a lot of research projects on these issues, actually. QMPP was a project which dealt with the question how in peer production quality management can actually be envisioned and realized. Peer production, something like Wikipedia, for example. And the question is, how can you envision that quality can be developed, even managed in these voluntary, user-generated environments like Wikipedia? That was a little bit the start. We were then moving on to a project called, an initiative called Concede, in which we discussed how social media and Web 2.0, if it comes to universities, is changing the educational environment, is challenging traditional concepts, and how also in these cases actually how quality can be developed there. And we were then moving on to the OPEL initiative, the Open Educational Quality Initiative, a big initiative which turned out to be having a global scope, involving UNESCO and the OER University from New Zealand, and actually it's a global university, started in New Zealand as well, and other actors around the globe, in which we tried to develop a guideline how open educational practice, which is let's say the use of open educational resources, can be made useful for educational organizations, how they can be supported from a policy perspective, and how learners also can get guidance and evolve their own capabilities in the field of open education. And OER test finally is a very, very interesting, our recent initiative, which deals with the question how actually open learning can be recognized in formal learning contexts. So you can envision, I will later on show a few slides on that, how actually you can go to your university and say, I have learned in an open course a certain subject, and can you recognize that as learning and credit it for me? We have put that together in several publications. The most recent publication is the publication on open learning cultures, which deals exactly with the question of quality, evaluation, and assessment of open learning, actually, and puts together research from the last 8 years in one volume, which has just been published. In EFQUIL, in these initiatives, actually, mostly funded by the European Commission, we have conducted more than 5 years of research with 16 partner institutions and spent quite a considerable amount of money on that. Several initiatives, as I already said, were coming out of that. The most recent ones are also mapped on this slide here. It's called VMPass and OEI. VMPass deals with the question how learners can take their learning experience and document their learning experience in a certain passport, a learner passport, and take it from one university to the other university. That's why it's called VMPass, Virtual Mobility Pass. So how can you be mobile with the learnings which you are acquiring in your learning biography, also in open courses, of course. And OEI is an initiative called Open Educational Ideas and Innovation. And it is about the question how open education can be made more popular and more accepted amongst educators in higher education by promoting a concept in which educators are not just using open educational resources, but in which they are involved in the creation and in the idea management of open resources already. So the big questions when it comes to quality, actually, and when we consider the drift to openness, which we can see these days, are what is the effect of openness on educational scenarios, and what are suitable quality methods for open learning, for OER? What is good quality open practice or open educational practice? And how can open learning be recognized? And what is quality of Moocs? These are the big questions nowadays. I already said that we have developed several models to tackle these issues. The first I would like to show you a little more in depth is a model on the issue of peer production. If you think about the scenario of Wikipedia or a certain content, maybe a certain handbook, a textbook for a university course, which you are not only writing yourself, but which you are writing together with colleagues. Or if you think about an educational scenario in which your students are asked to set up a wiki, and in this wiki, they are asked to put together certain materials. In this wiki, they are asked to draft reports, to work on certain issues, on certain conclusions. Then the question is, which processes are actually involved, and how can quality management of such a process for your students or you as a teacher or also in environments like Wikipedia be conceptualized? And what we are seeing here, what we have worked on very much, is that there are two processes. One is this process of peer creation, which we are calling it, in which it is editing, updating, enriching materials on the web, in wikis or in other tools. And the other process is a process of peer validation. And peer validation is a very interesting concept. It is really about asking the question, which methodologies can be used in order that peers are actually able to review, reflect, and learn from each other. And we have developed these and described these methodologies as possibilities in such peer production contexts to enable quality enhancement. It's called benchmarking, peer review, peer reflection, peer learning. If you're interested in that, have a look. The report is freely available. In another initiative, which I already described as well, Conceit, we have discussed the concept of social media in higher education. Social media in higher education leads to profound changes because it leads to away from the teacher as the material owner and material giver considerably to a situation in which students and learners are actually the ones who are generating the materials. So we talk a lot with social media, blogs, wikis, forums, internet forums. We talk a lot about user-generated or learner-generated, as we like to call it, learner-generated content. And again, the question is, how can university teachers actually when they are using methodologies like wikis, technologies like wikis and blogs in their seminars, in their lecture halls, how can they make sure that the content which the learners develop there, which they find on the net, which they write themselves, which they are in collaboration editing, or which they put together in learning groups, that this content is of quality and is a reflected piece of work, a reflected artifact of learning. And again, the issue here was to map out and to pilot and to improve methodologies which can be used. And you see here that on the lowest level, where the learners interact with each other, we are suggesting peer reflection and self-reflection methodologies, peer review methodologies. And then on the next level, which is the interaction between teachers and learners, we suggest the methodology of self-evaluation, which is a very, very interesting, often underestimated quality methodology, which is not just meaning that you're evaluating your own material, but that you have a clear four-step process in which you first set your own criteria in negotiation with the teacher, then you develop your material, you assess your material, you present to your teacher as a coach in a way the results of your evaluation, and you draft together a learning and development plan. So there are several methodologies which can be used when social media enters the environment, when Web 2.0 is on stake in higher education and changes that. What actually happens then if you are using social media, if you are using open approaches, if you open up the learning environment in such a way that you move to non-traditional learning environments, is that you're developing open educational practices. And in an initiative which I already introduced as well, we have conceptualized this model. And as we have only a short time this morning, I would encourage you to go to our website. All the materials, all the models, all the reports are described there and downloadable for free. You can see that we conceptualize open educational practice in this model, which you see here, in a way that we say it is a combination of the way you are using open educational resources, low, little, medium, or high frequently. A combination of this with the second dimension, which is describing how your learning environment is structured. If it is a learning environment which we call a closed learning environment, in which you are focusing on knowledge transmission, or if it is a learning environment in which you have open methodologies, that the students choose their own learning paths, and they even choose their own learning methodologies and their learning objectives. So social practices, co-creation, sharing is in the foreground, and we call these environments open environments for learning. And if you now see that you can move from the G quadrant here in the left lower hand corner to the C quadrant in the right upper hand corner. You see that you would undergo a journey from an environment in which you are using no or little OERs in closed environments, and you can move up your open educational practice. That means you're using more and you are reusing more and you're creating more OER in environments which are characterized through an open learning architecture, actually. So that's a very interesting model to categorize a little bit the different learning scenarios which you can see. And we have then created a guideline which you can also download to show teachers and institutional managers as well of institutions, rectors, vice chancellors, and so on, policymakers as well, and also learners, how they can actually move from the lower to the upper, how they can improve their open educational practice. This is what we call the Metro map, and you can as well access that on the web, and you can see for each of these target groups here, you can go certain steps, and for each of this step, it is described what you have to do in the guideline, and you can access also best practice and case studies, like in a Metro map, so to speak, to improve your open educational practice. A third, last conceptual model I would like to describe is the model of OER test. OER test was asking the question, how can you use credits which you are as a learner experiences, how can you use learning experiences which you make as a learner through open educational resources? How can you use these experiences in university contexts? And we have mapped out several scenarios. For example, the first one you see here, that is a learner is learning at a university with a material that this university puts out on the web as an open course. And he then goes to his own university professor and he says, I have learned this here, and I would like to use it at our university. Can you test me for it? And the professor says, yes, I can test you for it, and I give you credit for it, and the student uses this. Now, that's pretty straightforward, you might think. It is actually not, but you might think that's pretty easy, but it gets more complicated if you envision a learner in the second scenario is learning at University 1 and is enrolled in University 1 and is learning an OER module from another university, and is tested there in the other university, and then wants to use the credit in his own university. That's already a little bit more complicated, and so you can go through all these different scenarios in a way, and you can map out the challenges. And in our very recent project, VM-Pass, we are actually trying to find a model how universities can deal with this and how open learning can be more recognized. I'm a little bit coming to the end of my talk now, and I would just jump a little bit onto this very, very popular topic of Moocs. I would like to give you a little bit an insight into a project which we did just recently, 5 months ago. We finished it. It was a blog project, actually, and the blog project in which we asked experts from all over the world to contribute their best thinking. And I show you which experts these were. And we asked them, how can we actually conceptualize quality for Moocs? What is quality for Moocs? Should we care about the Moocs if there are many dropouts? Should we think about Moocs as challenging the current higher education model? And also, how will it be looking when learning and certification, as I discussed it in the beginning of my talk, will be disaggregated? So one is giving the learning environment, the other one is doing the certification. And what is it actually that makes a model with high dropouts, like Moocs are, there are high dropout rates usually, little success rates and heterogeneous target groups so popular? And as I said, we asked 12 experts from the very first hour, often entrepreneurs of the Mooc movement. And you can see here Stephen Downs, Paul Stacey, Gilly Selman, Gronje Connell, Dave Cormier, and so on, and others, also students, to contribute their best thinking. We collected 12 blog posts of these 12 experts, and they are still open online under this URL of mooc.fquil.org. I would like to leave it here actually, and hope that you receive the slide sets, because on the next 7 slides you would find 7 recommendations which we harvested from the contributions of all these experts, how Mooc quality can be developed. You see that here, that there are several very shortly phrased recommendations. They will be published. We are going to have a call which is going to be published, a call of our journal. It's the International Journal of Quality and Innovation in Learning, InnoQual it's called, which you also find on the fquil website. And the call will be inviting contributions to Moocs and quality based on our blog project here. And we will also contribute, of course, our findings from the project. So this is a little bit a roundup now and a wrap up of this whole issue of quality for open education. I hope you enjoyed a little bit, and feel free to contact me if you are interested in learning more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor EHLERS. We know that the time is out now, but just some remarks about your talk, very important. We have been follow all the developments you introduced in your presentation, and one important issue to be underlined is the fact that openness regarding not only Moocs, where we know there is a hype regarding Moocs, but openness regard open educational resources and the very important concept of open educational practices, which frameworks you introduced. And our main concern is how the empirical research, in which directions the empirical research should go if test models have been validated in several countries, because of course in Italy we would have the opportunity to adopt some of the frameworks and the tools you introduced. This is one issue. The other issue is the importance you give to peer evaluation. Yes, to peer evaluation as part of open educational resources, and practices, and also Mooc quality. So, which are the directions for future research you would suggest?
Well, I think that what is important is that we understand that quality is actually not a result of a learning material or a learning environment, but quality is actually the relation between the student and or the learner and the learning material and the learning environment in its totality. So if you now consider this quite abstract thought, what you have to realize is that quality would then need very carefully designed strategies and research frameworks to find out how in open environments individuals shape this relation to open communities, to open content, to open education, and thus to do quality research on this. So I think that is very, very important, that we do not think that we have understood already all dimensions to describe quality in open learning contexts. We need to do more empirical research to find out what are the motives, what are the situations of learners in open learning, and what are their learning pathways, their learning methodologies. They are different. We know that from Moocs, that dropouts are the usual way and not a failure of a course, for example. And so we need to do more research in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.